Every once in a while, you meet a hero you've admired for years, someone you feel you love from afar. For me, it was the Right Honorable Dame Jacinda Ardern. As Prime Minister, Jacinda passed the Zero Carbon Act, committed to cutting child poverty to half, expanded paid parental leave, implemented a child food program, and much, much more. She guided New Zealand through the white supremacist attack on 2 mosques at Christchurch and the pandemic, where the world saw a leader proving that compassion and rigor can be a governing principle. I run a restaurant, she runs a country, but we both navigate by following the same bright stars. Today we're here together in the River Cafe, a hero I finally met, a woman I can justifiably now say I love.
That's a beautiful intro.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you.
it's true. It's
Thank
absolutely
you.
true. So it's one thing to be Prime Minister of a country. It's one thing to be an author of a great book. And now you also have written your own children's book.
Yes.
And you also have a documentary, which is, I'm dying to see, which is on posters everywhere. Tell me about, what you've been doing lately.
Well, with the children's book, a lot easier to write than the adults book, but it's based on conversations I used to have with my daughter. And I decided to turn it into a book because, when you're a working parent, you face these questions from your kids that make you realize that maybe they use the way you spend your time as a measure of your love. Mm. And I wanted something that would convey to her that, yes, I work, but there's nothing that's as important to me as her and our relationship. And so it's called Mum's Busy Work, and that's what I thought there was a little gap because I never found anything as a working parent that had that messaging. Really,
is that published here? Is it published worldwide?
It is, yeah. You can get that. It's published in the UK, spelled M-U-M, but you can also get it in America with an M-O-M. Yeah. So the documentary, my husband's a broadcaster, and so when I became Prime Minister, he just picked up a camera and just caught moments behind the scenes. At that time, I think it was both in our heads, that would have some record for our family. But then when I left office, these conversations started about whether or not it might be something else. And so it's a documentary now. It's called Prime Minister, and it's in the UK in cinemas from the 5th of December.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And we can see it on
you can see it in cinema. If you're in the US, you can see it on HBO
and
Max.
HBO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing it? Were you involved?
Well, so, I guess to say, did you enjoy doing it? It's like, did you enjoy being Prime Minister? Because it's very, very intimate. It's very much behind the scenes, and I hope a bit of a window into what it's like to lead.
Yeah.
And so I found it a hard watch because it's very realistic. So I've only seen the final version just the one time.
You didn't, we weren't involved.
Yeah, I watched it at Sundance with everyone else.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a lot, but I watched it and I thought, that was what it was like. Yeah.
I don't know whether Prime Minister lives in New Zealand. Do you have a palace? Do you have a house?
I
do
wouldn't.
You have an apartment? What do you have?
So we have this beautiful home in New Zealand called Premier House, which is on and off through its history being used as the home where the Prime Minister of the day lives. But in its not too distant history, it was a dental training school.
Oh.
And I met people who would say, I used to get my teeth done in the house that you're living in. And so on the ground floor, it's got some event space. And so actually civil servants and different groups would use it. I'd often come home and there might be people in the downstairs and they would just trot upstairs to the first floor apartment where we would live. And it had a basic little kitchen in it.
But you didn't have a chef who cooked for you?
No.
So you had to take care of your own food?
Yeah, so we would, there's a great chef in New Zealand called Nadia Lim, and she started a meal bags and meal kits called My Food Bag, and we would use that because it was fresh ingredients and it was easy, and it just meant that we could cook something at home in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Clark did our cooking for the most part, and so that's where those meal bags.
Why do you think that is? I wonder why that value on having the highest elected official in a country not be fed by,
I think in New Zealand, And I appreciate this about New Zealand.
yeah.
We're pretty unhierarchical. We like to know that, if you're a member of parliament, that you're being careful with taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
And we also, I think one of the great things about the prime ministership in New Zealand is you keep your proximity to people.
Yeah.
So, I would still go to the grocery store.
Did you?
And you'd have great conversations with people. It'd take a little longer.
Amazing.
I'd still drive myself places when I could.
It's very cool, isn't it?
The shift back to not being in that role isn't the hugest leap in the world. You don't have security following you around anymore, but that's probably quite a good thing.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't, you have more time to cook. Yeah.
How many women prime ministers were there before you?
Two.
First
one was in the mid-1990s, and that was Jenny Shipley. And then the second one, the longest serving, was Helen Clark, and she was first elected in 1999 and served 9 years, 3 terms. So, so not too distant history. She was the first prime minister I ever voted for. Was Helen Clark, and so a gift.
Yeah.
To have 2 other women in front of me.
Do you think?
I think so.
Why?
A gift because it meant that I wasn't breaking that particular glass ceiling. There'd been women before me. I didn't feel like I had to prove that you could be a female leader and be competent.
Yeah.
That had been well proven. I think instead what I ended up testing was the types of qualities you could bring as a leader, these ideas of compassion whilst still conveying strength. Those were things people, I think, really questioned. And I was very visibly, we've had parents, obviously, as Prime Minister before, but I had a baby.
You had a baby.
So that was very pronounced, I guess.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What was it like having a baby as... You couldn't get maternity leave, I suppose.
Well, it was a funny thing because we'd extended maternity leave, and then the question was, would I take it? And I said, well, I didn't feel like that's something that I could do, because obviously it's a very particular job. So I took 6 weeks. And I remember just there was no precedent. I just had to, before I had my daughter, make a guess of what would be about right. And I chose 6 weeks because... generally the guidelines for before you could say drive if you had a C-section. And I thought,
you'd had a C-section.
No, I hadn't had any. And so I just had to guess. I thought, what if I end up with a C-section? Right. How long before I can physically do things? Yeah. What's the bare minimum?
You listening to
6 weeks. I thought 6 weeks. And so I picked that as a bit of a just in case. I was also very aware that I was, the technical term, a geriatric mother.
You were what?
Medically, they call you a geriatric mother.
How old were you?
I was 37.
Yeah.
I think so many things. I remember thinking, well, who decided that was the term, and how do we get it changed?
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, as soon as I got that label, does that mean everything's going to be harder?
And
I had no baseline. I'd only ever had one.
Did they ever call you up during your maternity leave and say, can you take this call from someone? I mean, can you?
Well, more, I think probably accurately would be how many times did I call others? I never really let go.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
No, I didn't feel like I should. I was not public facing, most of it doing it at home from a chair. My daughter was jaundiced when she first arrived, so there was a lot of her lying in the sun on my lap.
Yeah, nice.
But still doing papers and phone calls.
And you took her to the UN, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can you describe that visit to the UN?
Well, she was 4 months old, so it was just necessity more than anything. I was still breastfeeding. It was too long to be without her.
And did you take her actually into the General Assembly?
Well, so when they had been part of, when I was over speaking or had meetings, she might come over in case I needed to breastfeed. But on the particular day where she was photographed, I was speaking at an event in honour of Nelson Mandela. And it was on the General Assembly floor. And we hadn't planned to bring her. I whipped over there because I was running late. And then as I came down off the floor, I saw that Clark had brought her over. And he was just waiting in the sidelines with her. And so I went and sat in the seat designated for New Zealand, and he came over and sat next to us, and I grabbed her and was holding her. There weren't many people on the General Assembly floor, and then I just heard tick, 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 tick. And I thought, what in blue blazers is that? And I asked the representative for New Zealand to the UN, And he said, oh, up in the wings. You couldn't see. There were these kind of closed off bits up in the
Yeah.
wings. He said, oh, the media sit up there. And, I didn't pay much attention because I couldn't see them. But sure enough, they were taking
Good.
photos of us. And you can tell that, we're kind of caught off guard because I have this awful look on my face. I'm making baby faces. I'm looking around at the clicking noises. But I hope when people see those photos, they see the people around me because they were the ones that were making my job possible.
Yeah. I wonder if she was the first baby to sit in that incredibly beautiful room, isn't
Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
Apparently she is. Yeah.
I went there on school trips, and I was so moved by going into that building.
Amazing.
And the history of it and the wood. Have you been there since then, or was that your one and
I
only
have
time?
several times. And one of the things that always grabs me is that in one of the walkways in, there are traditional Māori panels.
Yeah.
That have been gifted. And so there's this, magnificent and often overwhelming space. Here's this piece of home that you can see as you move through the building.
What are they?
They're a type of panel that you would see in what we would call marae or Māori meeting spaces in New Zealand, where there's weavings over the top of wood panellings. And they've been gifted to the UN over the years. There's a number of different cultural pieces around the building from different parts of the world, but these Māori panels are quite prominently placed. And so that my first memory of being at the UN was seeing this piece of home and feeling incredibly proud to represent New Zealand. And after that visit with my daughter, New Zealand co-sponsors now a breastfeeding space in the UN building.
Good.
Because that kind of thing didn't really exist. I remember Clark changing Neve in a meeting space, and a delegation came in to have a meeting, and there Clark is trying to change Neve on a table.
Yeah.
So it's a small little legacy.
That's nice. Talking about the food that you ate growing up in New Zealand and school, what your mother cooked. Tell me about Māori. And
the Indigenous New Zealanders, Māori, are incredibly generous in the sharing of every aspect of Māori culture, and that includes food. Hangi is a traditional form of preparation, so the use of stones and cooking within the earth over a number of hours, where you would cook pork or chicken and vegetables. And so you see lots of different iterations
and
of
that
hangi.
culture still exists.
Yep,
is encouraged.
absolutely. But there's then a number of other different dishes that are traditional to Māori culture. And I've tried to start a tradition with our daughter that when Matariki, the Māori New Year, comes around, that we'll make a more traditional dish.
What would you make?
A really slow-cooked soup, where you might slow-cook pork over a number of hours and then add puha, which is a type of watercress, to it at the end. Maybe dumplings as well sometimes are served with it. But it's very warming because Māori New Year is
it the same time?
So Māori New Year is based around harvest and the lunar calendar, and sits around the June mark, which is New Zealand winter. So and we made that a national holiday in New Zealand.
Did
while
you?
We were in
Did you
office.
do that when you were in office?
Yeah.
You say that you were telling us in the kitchen that your grandparents who came from Scotland?
My great grandmother came from Scotland in 1913.
Yeah.
She came out on the ship named the Tainui
By herself?
with her son, with an 8-year-old child.
And what happened? What happened?
Well, she was divorced earlier that year, which I
Wow.
can't imagine would have been that common.
Wow.
I think divorced in January and on the boat by November.
I'm divorcing you and going to New Zealand.
I'm going to New
there you
Zealand.
go.
I know that's really
That
that
is
is really
blood, yeah.
She brought with her violin and her pistol and her son. Yeah.
Okay.
So she came to New Zealand, married another Scotsman who was born in Australia, though, McVicker, and had my nana. Yeah. And she died when my nana was 8.
Oh.
And my nana then took the violin and the pistol. And they're both,
Do you still have them?
we do. My nana gave me the violin when I was learning as a girl. And so pretty special treasures. But I think that must say a lot about her.
A lot. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
And I wonder how long that journey was.
Oh,
Like months and
weeks
months?
and weeks and weeks.
Incredible, though, to say a woman on her own.
Yeah, she. I've seen the ship manifest. My mum's a genealogist. She listed herself as a cook.
Another cook.
Another cook.
Okay.
But her father was a policeman, which is what my father
Yeah.
ended up doing as well. Yeah. So my great-grandmother came from Scotland. My great-great-grandfather came from Denmark. And then I've got other relatives who came from Ireland, and yet were the only ones in their family. Every other sibling they had went to Syracuse, New York.
No,
Yeah.
Syracuse.
And I cannot tell you why. Why, if all your family were going to New York, did you decide, nope,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sailing on?
Those-
And knowing that you may never see them again
I
is
know.
such bravery and courage.
And it happens right now. You know,
Yeah.
people are leaving
true.
countries as brave and courageous
They are.
refugees and traveling to another country. The only, the issue is, are they being welcomed and taken care of, as my relatives were.
And, I think we often forget that decision to leave family, leave connection, leave your home. Those are big, hard decisions.
Big.
You don't take those lightly. And for the most part, I think they are, as my great-grandmother would have been most likely driven by the idea of giving her son a better life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Scottish ancestry in New Zealand, and particularly the South Island. You go to the furthest southern parts of New Zealand, and they still roll their R's. So it's
give me an imitation, can you?
So, in the South Island, they might say, instead of servery. There's just a bit of a stronger R there.
yeah.
And it's credited to the connection with Scottish ancestry.
Let's talk about the book you wrote, A Different Kind of Power. Do you think that this background of your life led you into a political? Because I also know that you had a very strong religious.
I think you're right. I think whether it's your ancestry, religion, your parents, so many of these things input into who we become. And so when I sat down to write A Different Kind of Power, I remember having that persistent question in my head that I'd get from people: how did you end up in politics, and how did you end up, deciding that these were the values that mattered to you? And I don't think you can pinpoint a singular thing.
Yeah.
And so I decided to write about all of it, and people will decide. My faith, I was raised Mormon, and I left in my early 20s. But I bear no resentment to having been raised in the church, because it gave me a set of values that are still really important to me. It just happened to be that one that felt a bit inconsistent for me was I believe in inclusivity. I believed in people's right to be who they are without judgment. And so the church's position on homosexuality I found hard. So that caused me to leave, but my faith was also grounded in service.
Yeah.
And I still carry that with me, and a good, healthy dose of guilt.
Mm-hmm. That's a good mode of transport. But so you just, not many 17 or 19-year-olds decide they want to be the leader of the Labour Party.
Oh, nor did I.
Age. What age? But did you know, or did that just grow into something?
It kind of grew into something. I mean, I remember the things that I felt most sure I'd become. I mean, my friends would joke about me kind of, being a politician. It's because I was the only friend they had that belonged to a political party.
Well, that's what I mean.
I was the odd one out.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't see it as a career.
Yeah.
I remember, in all those little diaries and little books that you fill in where it says career, I would write things like psychologist or writer or probably the closest alternate career I came to was being a policewoman.
Yeah.
I remember talking to my dad really seriously about it. I started doing the training. I don't know that I would ever have passed the physical, but because I thought seriously I might.
Was there a feeling that you wanted to travel because you came to London?
Oh, yeah.
And tell me about that.
Well, I remember being obsessed with the United States. And I wonder if in part that was my religion. I mean, culturally, it's, it's home really is the US. And we had a lot of Mormon missionaries that would come through my very small town. And they would tell me tales
like
of,
the Book of Mormon.
home. Yeah. Well, they would tell me about Arizona or
Utah.
Idaho or Utah or all the places they came from, and their family would send Kool-Aid or ranch dressing, or they taught us how to make buffalo wings and told me about the Simpsons. And I remember just thinking, America sounds so magical. And so I used to think I would serve a mission so that I could go to America.
Yeah.
So I remember always the idea of travel, so excited by it, but I just couldn't see how it would happen beyond going out and being a Mormon missionary. So it's felt like there was a big barrier to that when I was a kid.
But that isn't what you did.
It isn't what I did, no.
How did you get to the States?
I saved up, worked hard, saved my money, and then when I was 19, traveled to the States.
By yourself?
By myself. I remember that being a big, a really big deal for me.
It's a big deal. It is a big deal at that age to go to so far. Do you remember the food in New York?
Oh, yeah. I remember in particular, I was still obsessed with buffalo wings.
Yeah.
In fact, as a kid, when you live in a small town and it's birthday time, you didn't really have parties or, you just get to pick your birthday dinner at home. I'd pick buffalo wings.
Would you?
Every time. And so eating buffalo wings at New Yorker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would be.
And did you have other food? Did you go to restaurants or did you?
I was in Arizona, so I remember
you were in
eating.
Arizona. Oh, I thought
remember
you were in New
eating a
York.
lot of good Mexican food, and I loved Mexican food.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think I actually after I finished up in America the second time, I was heavier then than I was when I was 9 months pregnant.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But you didn't go to Mexico.
I did not.
You have to go.
I have. I did not that time. I have been once. But yeah.
For me, it's one of
Amazing.
People often ask me my favorite city, and they expect me to say Rome or Milan or Florence, and they are great cities. But for me, Mexico City, I had to live there for sort of 4 months and discovered Mexican food in a very different way.
Yeah.
It doesn't really translate so much. It's great, as you say, the food you get in the United States of Mexican food. But when you get there, it's very kind of light and clean. It's delicious.
I remember eating at a place called, I want to say it was Roses. And I think what I remember loving about it was just the simplicity of all the dishes, but they were just so good.
Yeah. And what about coming to England? Did you come to London?
I came here first after I worked as a advisor in politics, kind of stumbled into some of those jobs.
By that time, you were how old when you came to London?
When I came to London, I was 25. I first bought a one-way ticket to New York thinking that was going to be my experience, but figured out how hard it is to get visas and find work. And so, of course, New Zealanders have the opportunity to take the working holiday visa in the UK. So I ended up coming over here, and I lived here for about 2.5 years.
Did you?
Yeah.
In London?
Yeah, I loved it.
Tell me about.
I lived... I didn't want to do the traditional OE that New Zealanders do, and they all live with New Zealanders and Australians. So I think in the beginning I had one token English flatmate, but then ended up with New Zealanders and Australians. But I lived in Vauxhall and Fulham and then finished in Brixton. And I worked in the British Civil Service and I loved it. I have lifelong friendships from my time here. And
what did you love about working for the...
I think just being here generally, I love the proximity to the rest of the world. And also there's something about being away from home that helps you solidify your identity. New Zealanders aren't traditional in their patriotism in lots of ways, but it really does come out when they're away. Yeah. And you see the things that we value.
What are they?
I think we have a really finely tuned sense of fairness. I do think that we pride ourselves in our hospitality, and so I think that means that we kind of instinctively look out for one another and for others if we are acting as host. I do think that we value company, we value the social side of life a bit, and we appreciate sports a lot.
Yeah.
We also... our physical environment
So
When you live in a city, you kind of realised, that proximity to the beach or those green spaces or just the freedom you have, the freedom kids have. Yeah, you notice the difference.
But living in London, did you feel that you loved London or you liked
I
it here?
did. I did love it here.
Yeah.
And having come from New York, I just noticed the difference in these two big cities.
What year was it?
2005.
Okay.
And I was here till about 2008. And so coming from these two big cities, you notice, when New York, a friend said this to me once, asks you every day if you really want to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never felt like that in London. There isn't that same unbottled rage that you sometimes get in New York. It's all pent up in London. So
people love London so much.
Yeah.
And I do too. But there's it's like different communities much more.
Yeah.
You kind of go between the different
yeah.
areas and communities and green, the fact that it is so green. What's Auckland like? Is it a beautiful city?
I think it's a beautiful city. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a city of sails, so the ocean is very important to the city.
Yeah.
I remember when my now husband and I were first seeing each other. He had a boat. He's a fisherman, and he took me out one afternoon. We just popped out onto the Waitemata Harbour and sailed for just didn't go that far, and then suddenly we've got 3 or 4 snapper and a John Dory, and there's dolphins and there's a black petrel, and I remember him saying to me, he's like, it's not always like this,
Nice.
But it's just it's beautiful, and the islands nearby. It is a beautiful city.
So we chose a recipe for you. So we're going to do roast monkfish. Do you like monkfish?
Yes, I like all fish.
Would you like to read it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
2 kgs of monkfish tail, 2 lemons cut into slices, extra virgin olive oil, 2 rosemary sprigs, 8 anchovy fillets. For this recipe, buy a whole monkfish tail on the bone. Ask the fishmonger to remove the tough outer skin. A tail weighing 500 grams is ideal for one person, and it will cook in less time. Preheat the oven to 220 Celsius or gas 7. Heat an oven-proof tray and drizzle with olive oil. Place the rosemary sprigs on the tray and the fish on top. Cover with lemon slices and the anchovies. Season. Roast in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes. Test by piercing with a pointed knife. The juices should be opaque. Serve with lemon.
Simple.
Simple. Delicious.
Yeah. So is fish something you grew up with? Or is it when you fell in love and married a fisherman?
Fish, yes and no. New Zealand has a tradition that I imagine has its origins here of fish and chips. And so my early memories and experience of fish was not so much that we would have fresh fish cooked at home, probably not because of proximity to the sea. Everyone in New Zealand is quite close to it, but probably in part because of expense. But every Thursday night, we would get fish and chips. That was the family treat.
Was that you went out as a family?
Well, we would go down to the local fish and chip shop, the Golden Kiwi, and order a couple of pieces of fish. That was what Mum and Dad would always have. Me usually too. My sister would have a hot dog, which is, your battered sausage on a stick.
Yeah.
Not your American hot dog, just a battered sausage on a stick. And a good serving of chips, and we would do that every Thursday. And that was this first place I got a job as well, working on a Friday night, was at that fish and chip shop.
When was that? That was
I was 14. Yeah. I was 14 when I got that job, and I worked there for 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
So going back to your family, your parents were
my mum's first job was working at a burger bar serving fish and
burgers, chips. Yeah.
But she worked in payroll before we came along, and when we came along, she wanted work that would fit around raising us. So she ended up working at my school canteen. So her job was to in the early morning, put the pies in the pie warmer and make the sandwiches for the staff room and the filled rolls for the students. And then she would run the canteen every day. And so before school, because she worked at the high school I went to, just a public school down the road, before school I would go into work with her, and I would sit in the canteen while she, busied herself, sometimes making her own lolly slice. Or
What's that?
a lolly slice. A lolly slice it's malt biscuits, so just a plain kind of malt biscuit mixed in with butter. Until it makes, a bit of almost like a pie base kind of consistency. I want to say maybe you put a bit of condensed milk in there to bind. Mm-hmm. And then you would put in like those banana lollies you get. They've got a denseness to them. We have ones in New Zealand that are pink and green, and they're called Explorers. And so you'd push that into it and then make it into a log and slice it. I mean, it's terribly unhealthy, but quite delicious.
Trying to figure this out.
So there were things like that that she would make and prepare. And so I have lots of memories of watching my mum busy at work while I would do a little bit of last minute homework and go to school. Yeah.
It's quite a big job. Was she trained as a cook, or was this just...
No, and I really remember when Mum started working there, the canteen was running at a loss. And so she worked really hard to figure out what it is that the students would eat and what the, staff would eat. And she tried healthy things and then found that for the most part, the kids wanted... mince pies, or these terrible things in New Zealand called lasagna toppers.
I'm learning about New Zealand food.
Oh, now
okay.
a lasagna topper is a square of grease. it's think bolognese.
Yeah.
I think the meaty sauce of a bolognese, and then it's got a white sauce sitting on top of it, and then somehow it's then crumbed. And I cannot tell you how they maintain their form. But they do, and I'm pretty sure they're deep fried.
And then deep fried, wow.
Yeah, and so pies and lasagna toppers, those were the things that the kids ate. Yeah.
And did you eat it? Would you go down to lunch and have it?
Not so much the lasagna toppers, but I loved a potato top pie.
Yeah.
Like nothing else.
What's that one?
Again, we inherited that from the English for sure, but certainly the mince or the steak and cheese. But the potato top is just your traditional mince pie. But it's got the flaked potato, the reconstituted flaked potato piped onto the top of it. Yeah. And if you're buying a pie from a fancy place, it might have a slice of tomato sitting dried.
Yeah. Okay.
From hours in the pie warmer.
It was good. I mean, all this food you describe as being delicious.
Yeah.
And something that you love.
And man, it will bring back memories.
Does it? Does it? The memories of what?
The free and easy time in your life when you would eat a pie and not think about the 32 grams of fat.
Those were memories, yeah.
The carefree days of your youth where you would be so energetic that actually lolly slice for breakfast, it didn't matter because you were just, sports and outdoor activities and just so much energy and so many other things to worry about than how healthy your diet was. That's what it brings back memories of.
I've asked everyone since we've done this program, which is to say, if food is comfort, is there food you might go to?
My nana's rice pudding.
Ah, okay. Tell me about that.
She used to cook it in the coal range, So I remember even when she got an electric oven, she still cooked on the coal range. And she made beautiful food on that coal range. And she knew I didn't like steamed pudding. So she would make my own little enamel dish, and it was just delicious. It was nothing like my nana's rice pudding.
Do you have the recipe?
My father probably has it. My mother might even have it somewhere. Yeah. All I remember of it was not an eggy rice pudding. It was very creamy. She'd bake it really slowly, and it always had the little skin on the top that was delicious. That was my comfort food of my mother's, which I sometimes make, and it's one of the first things I learned how to make. It sounds terrible. Tuna mornay.
Okay.
It was basically a tuna casserole. It was rice on the bottom, and then it was a kind of a white sauce, but it was made with a soup mix, like an onion soup mix or a mushroom soup mix, and you'd turn it into a sauce, and you would add canned tuna and peas to it, and you'd put that over the top of the rice, and then you'd just cover it with grated cheese, and you'd bake it.
Do you still make it?
Oh, I do.
Do
and
you?
I'm, one of my great disappointments is that my daughter does not respond to it in the way that
She
I
will.
used to. She does not love it.
She doesn't love it.
She does not love it. And yet, for me, that is just classic comfort food right there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ruthie's Table 4 was produced by Alex Bell and Zad Rogers, with Susanna Hislop, Andrew Sang and Bella Salini. This has been an Atomised production for iHeart Media.